Well, hello there, Mr. Chicken and Mr. Bear are just going to bed. Welcome to the first episode of Baddtime Stories with me, Baddtime. Today's story will be the Sandakan Death Marches, or why we have a memorial in Sabah every year for Orang Putihs. Once upon a world war in the 1940s, the Empire of Japan rose up and threatened to take over the world. Soon, the war reached the land of Malaya. Malaya at that time was protected by the British and Australian empires, but they were powerless against the Japanese invasion. The warriors were captured and brought across the sea to build an airport in a place called Sandakan. The Japanese were cruel masters, and 1,900 prisoners soon found themselves being beaten, starved, and tortured, and many of them succumbed to illness and malnourishment. The war was still raging on outside the airport too, and on one fateful day, British flew in and laid waste to the airport with their aircrafts. With no airport left to build, the Japanese planned to move all of the prisoners in stages to a place called Jesselton, which today is known as Kota Kinabalu. This moving of prisoners along the 260-kilometer route from Sandakan all the way to KK will later be known as the Sandakan Death Marches. The Japanese then asked the locals to clear a path for them through the jungle. However, the locals hated the Japanese, so they came up with the most difficult route they can find, crossing several rivers, up steep slopes, and through muddy marshes. The first stage began sometime in January 1945. Out of the starving and sick prisoners, the Japanese managed to round up 455 of the strongest ones and led them into the jungle. Prisoners were already weak to begin with, so not many made it through the jungle. Those who were too weak to go on or tried unsuccessfully to escape were killed on the spot, and their bodies left in the jungle to rot. But as the march continued, even the Japanese soldiers found the path too challenging, so they stopped and established a camp at Ranau. Only 190 prisoners survived the first march. After a few moons, the second batch of prisoners started their journey to Ranau, and these prisoners were even weaker than the ones in the first batch. Out of the 536 prisoners who started the journey, only 183 reached Ranau, and that's when they found out that only 6 prisoners from the first march were still alive. The rest were either killed, starved to death, succumbed to sickness, or dropped dead from the exhaustion of carrying rice sacks from a nearby place called Panginatan. But the war was coming nearer to an end, and the Japanese knew that none of the prisoners must survive to tell the tale. So in June, they chose 75 prisoners who can still walk from the remaining 250 in Sandakan and led those into the jungle. But the ones chosen to march were so weak and diseased that none made it past 50 kilometers on the trail. They were also killed, and their bodies were left in the jungle. But even though the Japanese were really careful, when they finally surrendered in August, 6 prisoners lived to tell their tales. Wait, so this next part might be a bit too scary for you, Mr. Bear. So how about some Justin Bieber? One survivor recounted another prisoner who slit his own throat with a can lid to give his friend a better chance of escaping. And another prisoner told the tale of someone who tried to escape but were caught and tortured in front of the other prisoners as an example. And things haven't been easy for the Japanese either. Many succumbed to starvation, and some of them even had to resort to cannibalism to keep their strength. Regardless of that, what the Japanese did to these prisoners were essentially war crimes, and with the testimony from the survivors as well as bodies collected from the jungle trail, the officers found responsible for these marches were tried and executed. Today, several monuments and places in Sabah, like the Labuan War Cemetery and the Sandakan Memorial Park, serve as a reminder to the horrors that once happened there, lest we forget. Well, Mr. Bear, is that story too grisly for you? Mr. Chicken, do you like it? I guess he didn't get it. So this ends the first edition of Baddtime Stories with me, Baddtime. To read the full story, click the link on the description or visit chilisauce.my for more.